Okay, I guess we'll get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Slager-Mativier. I'm head of reference and instruction at Central Connecticut State University, Ella Huber Library. And this is information literacy via digital scholarship, mapping the framework to demonstrate benefits of digital scholarship for college students of all levels. Okay. Janelle Bitter is our presenter, and she is the Systems and Technical Services Librarian at Raritan Valley Community College in Branchburg, New Jersey, where she also teaches information literacy, provides reference services, performs collection development, and oversees the college archives. She is interested in increasing faculty collaboration and student success through advocacy and support for digital scholarship and methods. She earned her MS in Library and Information Science at Pratt Institute and holds a Master of Music from the University of New Mexico and a Bachelor of Music from Ithaca College. Also, just wanted to point out that we are recording, and if you could hold your questions to the end and put them in the chat or ask at the end. So welcome, Janelle.
Thank you.
I can stop sharing.
Okay, great. And then I will start sharing. Great. Okay. So thank you for that introduction, Susan, and welcome everybody to my presentation, whose title is too long, on using digital scholarship methods to teach information literacy. Here is my agenda for this afternoon. I'll give a brief intro about me, review the session outcomes, and provide some broad explanations for the ways digital scholarship can be beneficial to all students. The majority of the presentation will consist of discussing activities that can be done using these 6 digital scholarship tools to teach information literacy concepts. For each frame, the focus will be on guided activities. I am not advocating for thrusting undergraduates into these techniques on their own, but rather on supporting their use and engaging in open dialogue and question asking and answering. I also want to state that while I will provide brief information about each platform, I won't spend much time defining these digital scholarship techniques beyond what is necessary to describe the platform and activities. So if you have any questions, please ask. A little about me. I grew up in Rochester, New York, hence the garbage plate on this slide, and studied music before pursuing librarianship. My performing background has informed my instruction practices, as I believe repeated opportunities to practice new skills along with peers and experts is one of the best ways our students can learn. At Pratt Institute, I took a DH course and did an interesting text mining project, which has inspired me into my career. But as a community college librarian, it has been challenging to figure out how to use digital humanities or digital scholarship in my professional role. A couple years ago, I attended ACRL's Digital Scholarship Institute, which provided me with a lot of additional skills and knowledge on this topic, and which has inspired me to start using the term digital scholarship, so as not to exclude anyone who isn't studying a humanities topic. These are the session outcomes from the conference program. As attendees, you should be able to introduce others to these digital scholarship tools, describe why they are valuable for teaching information literacy, and explain what the value of doing that is in the first place. Starting broadly, these are some of the reasons I have identified as how and why digital scholarship is a valuable skill for undergrads. High impact practices, which are teaching and learning practices shown to be beneficial for college students from many backgrounds, were identified by the Association of American Colleges and Universities in 2008. The practices on this slide are concepts that I consider to also be core principles of digital scholarship. To me, the significance of process over product in digital scholarship breaks from traditional learning expectations and may appeal to students who don't feel that they're part of the academy. Universal design for learning gives students a choice in means of engagement, representation, action, and/or expression. There are multiple ways of doing things and various perspectives, and these research methods could be an option. And finally, digital literacy is needed in more and more professions and is as relevant to students who plan to begin working next year as it is to those who plan to pursue graduate studies. Before I launch into this section, I'd like to acknowledge that what follows are my ideas that I have not yet had the opportunity to use with students. So I welcome your critique regarding the feasibility of doing any of this with your students or figuring out how to work with teaching colleagues to fit this into the curriculum. I laid out my presentation in alphabetical order by frame, the way ACRL arranges the framework. However, it turns out that this first frame is the perfect one for me to start with, and I will continue to refer back to it throughout. I am approaching authority kind of upside down by allowing students to question traditional forms of authority and think for themselves. In 2016, Project Information Literacy found that only about a quarter of students felt that college had taught them to ask questions. By turning authority on its head, these activities can give students permission to try something new and enter into the conversation that may have otherwise been intimidating to them. Although this frame will be incorporated throughout, I wanted to introduce it with some activities of its own. I apologize for the wordiness of this slide and want to warn you that there will be 6 more like it. But this text is taken directly from the ACRL framework and are the knowledge practices and dispositions tackled by the activities I will be presenting. Students will have opportunities to use traditional indicators of authority to vet sources, while also remaining skeptical of content and the limitations of established means of granting authority. They will see their role as crucial, both as experts themselves, but also in terms of keeping an open mind and allowing their views to develop regarding what is authoritative. JSTOR Text Analyzer is a research tool in development by everyone's favorite database. I don't know about your region, but many of our students come to us pretty familiar with JSTOR, which is part of why I wanted to make sure we questioned its authority. The text analyzer helps you find additional research sources after you upload a related document. This can be a good source that you already found or even your own writing. Though it is meant as a research tool, it provides opportunities for discussion and debate. Here's the landing page for JSTOR Text Analyzer. As I will be doing throughout this presentation, I am using screenshots to show the platform, which allows the captioning to continue working and is a lot less trouble than going in and out of tabs. However, we will be sending links in the chat at each appropriate slide so you can access the actual platform if you wish. And I believe that this link was already sent. So here are the results of me dragging the sample document into the analyzer. Notice on the upper left under prioritized terms, you can move the sliders to increase or decrease the importance of a term. Below, in identified terms, you can click one to add it to the prioritized list. Either of these actions would redo the search. Note that the results are drawing only from the prioritized terms, although they contain other identified and unidentified terms as well. Clicking one of the topics in a record will add it to the prioritized terms and redo the search. The results list can be utilized in the same way you would use the results of any JSTOR search. This and the following activity could be steps in a longer process, which is how I designed much of this presentation. To begin, students would do the analysis of an article themselves, to develop keywords, seeing their potential role as authorities, and then run the tool and compare results. The instructor would help students figure out what the results mean and show them how to modify the identified terms. The class or groups should assess whether the tool worked better than their collaborative effort and remain aware of their potential biases and perspectives. Next, students would use more familiar methods of evaluation to vet results. They can choose one and determine what biases may be present even though the author or source normally would be considered authoritative. Whereas normally students are looking for the best sources to answer their question, here we would want them to look for the sources that aren't there, if that's possible, and to try to figure out why some viewpoints or topics might not be in the search results. So here is what really got me thinking about authority, because it seems algorithms have become such a ubiquitous part of our lives that we don't always think to question them, especially when they come from a household name like Google or JSTOR. But what is really happening behind the scenes when JSTOR identifies the most important concepts in an article? Students should assess the results of the text analyzer with skepticism and understand there may be views that get excluded when utilizing this tool. I also want to address controlled vocabularies, which can sort of flatten out a concept by including only the algorithm's perspective. Students should feel that their authority in developing keywords and searching is just as valid as the text analyzer. While the controlled term should be associated with all sources on that topic, can't it also leave some out? In addition, these controlled terms could exclude groups who refer to concepts in different ways. Moving on to the next frame alphabetically, we have info creation as a process, for which I will be using Tableau Public and data visualization. Thinking about creating information by producing data visualizations may be a bit different from our normal thoughts about publishing life cycles, peer review, or scholarly conversations, but I think an abnormal approach can help engage students. Plus, the results are visual, and data visualizations are likely something encountered by our students in their everyday lives. This platform will allow students to participate in information creation and understand how audience perceptions can change based on package, and the responsibility that gives them as creators to choose a format that accurately represents their data. They will learn to inquire into the data behind visualizations while acknowledging that there may not be one perfect representation. Tableau Public is an open source data visualization platform with a wide variety of data representations available. When I learned about this tool a couple years ago, you had to download the software, then upload the viz you created to save it. Now, there is an option to create the visualization online, which only requires you to create an account. There is no way to keep the final product completely hidden, so avoid using sensitive or private data. This platform is one of the tougher ones I included in this presentation, as the vocabulary is unique and it can be easy to get frustrated. Luckily, there are many help videos available, and the tool will recommend visualization types based on your data. Here is the beta dashboard once you've already uploaded an Excel file. I'd like to mention that you need to be logged in to see this. So even if you follow the link that we send you, you won't be able to follow along in real time unless you already have an account. Note the multiple sheets on the left, from which you need to select one to work with. Once I drag the cleaned data into the upper canvas space, I will see the rows and columns in the lower portion of that screen and can modify them if needed. On the lower left, I've highlighted where you would go after that to begin creating visualizations. Click Sheet 1 to access the first worksheet. Now I am in Sheet 1 using the dataset Tableau utilizes in their examples, which is global CO2 emissions from the World Bank. I have selected two data points on the left, country name and the CO2 data, and have opened the Show Me toolbar on the right. Note that some are colored in, which are the recommended types, while others are grayed out because they won't work with the data I have selected. This time, I dragged data points into the center canvas, and it created this visualization as the best option for country name and CO2 per capita. It's hard to see, but the dot sizes correspond to the data, which shows a sum of yearly CO2 per capita for that country. I also dragged CO2 per capita over the color tile that I highlighted on the left of the screen. That created a gradient effect with shades of blue to further indicate greater CO2 production. There are many color options to choose from if you would prefer something more contrasting. The larger red box on the left below shows which data is in the chart. The bottom two pills, as they call them, with the top green pill indicating which data is represented by color. And I'm actually going to skip this slide, but this just gets into a little bit more detail of how you can drill down and make some changes. Okay, so into the activities. Another helpful thing about Tableau is the gallery of visualizations they provide to analyze and ponder. In fact, this could be the only activity you do in this platform, as it still gives students an opportunity to debate the pros and cons of data visualization and better understand the graphics they frequently encounter. In guiding students, see if they know what data is being represented or if they think the viz is more geared toward attracting viewers. Utilize multiple visualizations so students can compare constraints and capabilities of each and decide which formats best represent the data and which were more visually appealing. Seeing various examples will also help students see the levels of ambiguity that come with data visualization. I would like to apologize for misrepresenting how much work this activity will be by putting it on just one slide. Before even working with students, the instructor would need to find or create a usable, clean data set. You should discuss this with the students, including potential bias that goes into the collection and cleaning of data, but students don't need to be included in the process. It would be easiest if you use one of the viz's recommended for your data, although you can also double-click on fields or drag them into the canvas and it will recognize your data type and display a logical chart. Thinking about questions that could be answered with the data and the visualizations gives you an opportunity to try out other options. Some may more accurately represent the data, and some may be more visually appealing, but it's important to talk about the variety of ways that information can be created out of the same set of data, and how that affects the audience and may change its purpose. I'd now like to return to the idea of authority, as I said I would. This slide is related to what I just talked about regarding the way the chosen visualization can affect the data's interpretation. And students should understand the responsibilities undertaken when choosing how to display data. Whether they are creators or consumers, they need to know how human biases and perspectives can skew interpretation. Something like depicting a data point as binary, when there are actually multiple options, can significantly alter data collection and interpretation. But when the information is produced by an authoritative entity like a government, it can be easy to forget your skepticism and desire to question what you see or read. I have chosen to discuss information has value through creating digital exhibits using Omeka. The process and activities require students to understand rights and intellectual property. Depending on the items used, this platform can allow students to see themselves as information creators or think about the ways others' ideas may or may not be widely represented. Actually, even if outside digital artifacts are used, students will still put a lot of work and creativity into building an online exhibit. Omeka is an online platform for publishing digital exhibits. Omeka is a Swahili word meaning display. The self-hosted version at omeka.net has limitations, while the hosted version has limitations, while the self-hosted version does not. It's important to note that once the site is created, it will be public, even if you make all its content private. Omeka is great for item-level description, which can help demonstrate connections between seemingly unlike items. This platform works well for group or class projects because with 4 levels of users, you can ensure that only you have the permission to accidentally delete the site. Here is the dashboard for omeka.net. This is again something you won't be able to see live now, unless you're logged into your own account. The menu I highlighted on the upper right is where you would go for a number of options. Plugins is where you would add the exhibit plugin, which I have already done on this site. Users is where you can give users one of the 4 levels of permissions. In settings, you can edit the order of the metadata fields, add a general site description, and more. The menu on the left is where you can add and edit items, collections, item types, tags, and exhibits. The Edit Item screen is where you can add metadata, choose which collection the item belongs to, and decide to make it public. The green Add Input button, which I've highlighted below Title, allows you to duplicate that field. In the menu on the top, you would select Files to upload your file. There is limited space on omeka.net, so even short videos are hard to fit. As a workaround, I've utilized the Use HTML option in one of the metadata fields to link out to videos hosted on YouTube. Although technically, Omeka should be used for hosting files, not linking to them. Lastly, on the exhibits page, you can add and reorder pages. In each page, you can edit the layout and arrange and caption items. This first activity seems pretty straightforward. What are we going to put in our exhibit? Whether student work or digital resources from an outside source, there needs to be a discussion about rights. Do students want to openly share their work with the world? If using outside sources, the instructor should provide students with websites that include reusable files and discuss with students the ways various digital items are licensed for reuse and what those options mean. In addition to that, there should also be a conversation about online representation. If using student work, how do their voices and perspectives add something to the existing scholarship? Why are they not often prioritized? If using outside work, who and what does it represent? Are there artifacts that have not been made available online that you wish you could include? What reasons may there be for their absence? Another way to address the value of information is to focus on how much work goes into putting the online exhibit together. Students should work in groups or as a class to curate the exhibit, deciding on how to describe and arrange the items. If using their own works, students should decide not only whether they want them to be public or private, but also how they are represented. If they're using outside items, the manner in which they arrange and describe them is still a reflection of student knowledge and is a unique contribution to the scholarly conversation. The arrangement and metadata can lead viewers to draw conclusions or develop an understanding that they would not have if only viewing the items alone. We also have the question of standardized vocabulary here. Students may want to use an existing vocabulary or create their own. Either way, who gets to decide how they say something and whose views might be left out as a result? Finally, I think it's important to reflect on the digital nature of this project and consider what is valuable about this type of approach. Returning again to authority, students need to see themselves as someone with expertise and knowledge that others would benefit from. At the same time, knowing how it feels to be an authority, they should understand why it's vital to give credit to the creator. Students should also question why some voices are left out of digital representation and how a standardized metadata schema does not reflect all perspectives. Next, I will be demonstrating research as inquiry using the text mining platform Voyant. The visual nature of this tool makes it an excellent vehicle for promoting open-ended exploration and re-examining information using different types of research methods. The inclusion of a full text reader allows users to examine their hypotheses right in the platform for further analysis. However, since these concepts may be new to students, The ability to persist and adapt with help from an instructor is key. Voyant Tools is an online platform for text analysis that requires no account creation or downloading of software, something that makes it very appealing. Voyant is the present participle of the French verb meaning to see, so these are seeing tools. And you do get to see a lot, with 5 panels that can display any of their numerous tools. The platform can work with either a single text or a collection of related texts, but either way, your text dataset is your corpus. You can work with a preloaded corpus, linked text, or upload your own. Here is Voyant's homepage. On the lower left, you can open an existing text corpus or upload a file from your computer. You can also paste a URL or text into the text box. I wanted to call out the question mark in the upper right of the text box, which provides more info and can take you to Voyant's extensive help pages. Here is a very zoomed out look at the 5 panels in Voyant Tools with the names of the default options illuminated with red boxes. In clockwise order from the lower left, we have Summary, Cirrus, Reader, Trends, and Context. In the summary, we see document length and vocabulary density. The Cirrus is a word cloud of the most commonly used terms in the full corpus. This is using one of the existing corpuses, a collection of 8 novels by Jane Austen. Zooming in a little more on the left side, I highlighted the spot in the first panel where you can switch between the full collection and a different document. Sorry, a single document. I also screenshotted some different summary items than were in the previous shot: average words per sentence and distinctive words. The reader, which is normally in the center but is here on the right, allows for actual close reading of each document. And here is the right side of the screen. What I've highlighted here is the fact that clicking on a term in the trends area will open it in context, and clicking on a spot there will take you to that place in the reader. Trends either shows you a comparison of word use across the different documents, or will divide a single document into 10 segments, which is what that extra screenshot shows, with the secret existing corpus of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Context shows you the term with a little surrounding text, which you can expand or decrease. Where better to begin than with an activity built around first impressions? Using the word summary and trends, engage students in conversation about what ideas this data sparks for new research questions that may be answerable with these tools. Through exploration and re-examination of the text in a different way, students can formulate questions to fill information gaps. The Cirrus tool allows users to compare the most used words in the full collection with individual works. The summary also provides data on the overall collection as well as the individual works. Trends can help compare the most commonly used words in each individual document or across multiple documents. At this point, I am building on the last slide's activities and moving toward drawing conclusions by incorporating close reading to validate ideas. The Trends tool can be especially useful when working with a single text, as you can see the way words are used over the course of the work. This can be done with a nonfiction work as well. How might organization of content, such as broad to narrow or chronological, explain word choice at different points? Trends has 5 different visualization options, which can also be an area of discussion, similar to what I presented earlier with Tableau. On the previous slide, I wanted to focus on a single text. Here we could use a collection as well, and move from distant reading and trends to getting more contextual information using context, and finally performing close reading. Moving through these tools allows the user to examine each step individually, but also think about how they can work together to help develop questions and then try to answer them. When thinking about authority in Voyant, students should see themselves as developing knowledge and expertise in this area while understanding that text mining is not a replacement for close reading. As such, they should remain open-minded about the ideas that can be developed while using this tool, yet not take for fact anything they perceive without deeper investigation. Our next frame and tool are scholarship as conversation with the multimodal online publishing platform Scalar. This technique brings together text with images, video, and other media to provide different ways for readers to engage with or navigate content. In creating this kind of online publication, students will have an opportunity to add their own voice, utilize existing scholarship while giving credit to original creators, and provide feedback to their peers. In doing so, they will produce scholarly work and develop an understanding of what that entails and why it is important. Working together with classmates, they will see how the various pieces contributed by their peers help to create a unified final product, as well as considering the value of multimodal publishing. As I mentioned on the previous slide, Scalar allows users to bring together their own text with media. It enables integration of multimedia evidence in ways not possible with print scholarship and provides the audience with additional ways to engage. Creating an account is a little more complicated than some of the other platforms I've referenced, but the team at the Alliance for Networking Visual Culture is very helpful and can assist you in setting up a classroom project. In Scalar, you can embed content as well as annotating it, and can also add links and some more advanced tools. You can make the entire site private, choose to share it with only other Scalar users, or make it completely public. The examples available on Scalar's site can give you a better idea of what the platform can do. As with previous platforms, the screenshots of what you see, the screenshots are what you see when you're logged in. So the link being sent to you is the page of examples. From there, you could also navigate to find out more about the platform. This is the toolbar that you see in the upper right of the Scalar page when you are logged into your site. The most important thing to note here is that almost everything you add uses the plus sign because in an online book, everything is a page. The import tool looks like download, so don't be confused. This is the toolbar in the text editor. Although there are some standard tools on the left, some of these have unfamiliar icons. Those further to the right are unique to Scalar, which include Scalar Note, which inserts a note that appears when you click on the linked text, Scalar Widget Link, which inserts a visualization widget and creates a link to it with the selected text, and Scalar Page, which links to another page within the same book. If you scroll below the text editor, you will see some other options. Here I am on the landing page, which uses a splash layout, but there are other options to choose from. A commonly used page type is basic, which freely mixes text and media. The Scalar publication has pages and paths, which you see in relationships. Pages can be paths or can belong to paths, and paths are just one possible way to navigate through the book. Users can also click through pages in any order as long as they are visible in the table of contents, which is added in the dashboard that we will look at next. And here is that dashboard where you can create, view, and edit all the books associated with your account. Here is a view of the pages on my site, some of which are hidden from public and visible only to contributors, hence the red highlight. The table of contents page is near the bottom of this list. And here is a sample page from a book I created. This is what you would see if the book was public and you were viewing it, but when you're logged in, you can also edit it from this screen. The blue text that says Ellis Island is a Scalar media link, which inserts media on a page and creates a link to it with the selected text. The image has an annotation, which is revealed when you hover over the correct section of the image. In this case, the small blue box that you may be able to see on the image's left center. The little speech bubble at the bottom of this page is where you could leave a comment. This is helpful if your peer review is going to be part of your project. Before you even begin working with Scalar, it is important to get students thinking about what they will be doing and why. The term multimodal online publishing may be a little over the heads of some undergrads, but the concepts are all too familiar. These are some class discussions that can help students think about the kinds of scholarship they want to create and the value of these various forms. Comparing print and electronic books and contrasting them with audio and video formats can get students to think about pros and cons of each. One valuable characteristic of online publishing is that there are many options for moving through content aside from a traditional linear path. Wikipedia provides an excellent example for the concept of hyperlinked resources. And so many people learn new skills by watching YouTube videos. What is the benefit to watching a video that we wouldn't get from another modality? Finally, all this conversation should be guided towards thinking about a potential topic. We're still not to the point of using the platform. Similar to Tableau, some of the terminology in Scalar can take some getting used to. So I think students should spend some analog time planning what they want to do first. Begin with a full class discussion about their purpose as creators before moving to any actual planning. In a full class project, this activity might entail each group creating a path and individuals in the groups creating pages. So group members should work together to allow all participants to share responsibility. By assigning each group a subtopic within a larger class topic, there is less pressure to create a lot of content. So the focus can be on quality over quantity and taking time to produce what you envision. I'd like to apologize again. This will actually be more complicated than this slide implies. This is just a broad outline focusing on the scholarship as conversation aspects of this work. But in reality, this will demand that the instructor be familiar with using Scalar and able to assist students. Content can be imported from a number of archives, such as Internet Archive, which I'm sure we are all familiar with, and Critical Commons, a nonprofit that supports the use of media for scholarship, research, and teaching. You can also import content from Omeka sites, SoundCloud, and YouTube. In addition, you can upload media files as well as link to them. As scholarship creators who are contributing in a participatory manner, students should purposefully combine text with media and give attribution whenever an outside source is used. They should use the available tools to assemble a meaningful publication and should support and critique each other's work with the goal of improving the publication rather than criticizing any one person. Back to authority again. This platform gives students a great opportunity to develop as experts while ensuring they credit other creators and include diverse voices in their efforts. This non-traditional form of scholarship also gives them a chance to question standard practices and contribute to a new method of scholarly communication. For this last frame and platform, I could not decide on just a few knowledge practices or dispositions, so I had to use 2 slides. Using HathiTrust for text analysis will include many of the typical search actions that students use in their daily lives. The difference here is what they will be searching for. They'll be searching with a new purpose and will need to modify their approach given the unique capabilities text analysis provides. They'll need to think about who may have published relevant information and how they can search to find what they need. In doing a typical behavior for new reasons, students will need to remain flexible and be open to finding sources in various ways and from multiple types of publications. They will also need to stick with it, ask for help when needed, and know when they have enough information. This may be a challenge, as text analysis or text mining works best with a large corpus of text. I'm sure most of you know of the HathiTrust Digital Library, which is half of this process and where all of the searching would take place. The analysis portion uses the HathiTrust Research Center, where you can analyze not just out of copyright works, but those still protected as well. Unlike Voyant, there is no reader tool in HTRC, so the user never gets to perform close reading or violate copyright. According to their policy, no substantial portion of text in any individual volume is revealed by interaction with these tools. The algorithms available include topic modeling, which makes use of probabilities to determine topics based on word use across a large set of documents. The user specifies the number of topics, and a visualization is produced which shows word clusters representative of possible topics. I tell you this because in a presentation I gave to my RVCC colleagues, I mentioned this option in an offhand way and found myself in a heated discussion with some humanities and social science faculty members about the place of computational analysis in research. So arm yourself with more knowledge than I had if you plan to share this platform on your campuses. Here is the HathiTrust search interface. Collections can be browsed from the top menu item. You can search the full text or catalog record and can also perform different types of advanced search. I probably should have unchecked the full view only checkbox in this screen, since you can also use copyrighted items in your text analysis project. In your results list, you can check items to add them to your collection. So you should log in first to create a saved collection. I've taken a bunch of disjointed filter screenshots so I can fit them all on this slide. But on the left here, which is on the top for real, is where you could switch to all items if you forgot to before. Other filters include subject, author, language, publication place and date, original format, and original location, which is the institutional library it came from. These are the initial steps in the HathiTrust Research Center once you are logged in and choose to execute the topic modeler. I chose my own workset, but you can also select other worksets that have been made public. The workset is the collection of documents you found in your search. This algorithm essentially teaches itself what kind of terms are in your text and how they are grouped together. The number of iterations is how many times it trains, so more is better but takes longer. You can train the model on different numbers of topics as well. At this next screen, you just have to be patient while the process runs. And here we have the outcome of the algorithm. Each bubble represents a topic, and they are colored and clustered according to similarity. Note the topics haven't been named or anything. It simply tells you what words are in it, and it's up to the researcher to decide what that means. Below the visualization is text explaining the output, which I could not fit in my screenshot. And here's the beginning of the spreadsheet that is the result of the named entity recognizer. Notice we have locations, dates, organizations, money, and people. In the initial steps of a good searching activity, it is important to know what you're looking for and why. An instructor should guide students in determining the scope of the task and encourage them to be flexible and open to new ideas. This conversation does not have to get into the nitty-gritty of text analysis, but students should know what they will be doing. Examples of this type of research are a great way to introduce the concept and increase student understanding. A discussion of the algorithm should also be undertaken so students know what types of questions they can try to answer. Algorithms were on the slide introducing HTRC, and they are most frequent words, named entity recognizer, and topic modeling. Now we get into the actual searching, but rather than just jumping in, the instructor should ensure students know how to use the interface and have some ideas about what they're looking for. This can be done with brainstorming, exploratory searching, and browsing via collections, with students also looking for new terms to use in future searches. Students should stay flexible as they learn more about their topic and figure out what is available and how they can use it. They will refine their searches as they discover more and will utilize instructor support to know when they have enough. Creating a collection to be analyzed is simple as long as you are logged in, and this collection will be visible in the Research Center when you use the same browser. Students may also consider keeping track of the types of documents they chose to ensure they remember what the Research Center will be looking at. Now, obviously, the actual text analysis step is important. For this presentation, I chose not to focus so much on the end results to keep the emphasis on the information literacy frame, searching as strategic exploration. But the final steps would be quite involved and merit much discussion. Similar to using Voyant, the instructor should describe the tools and ensure students consider what questions remain even after seeing the results. This will certainly require guidance from a librarian or professor and will demand students manage their search results so they can analyze them. Thinking about authority while using HathiTrust for text analysis includes utilizing traditional indicators of authority and the responsibility that comes when using algorithms as part of your research process. Students should also note that historical materials in HathiTrust may provide views no longer widely accepted and be aware of that bias. Here is a list of resources, some of which I verbally quoted or used in my slides, and others that inspired me or provided me with the background knowledge necessary to develop these ideas. The platforms themselves are on the next slide. As I stated before, you can learn so much more about these platforms on their documentation or help pages, which you can get to from these landing pages. Great, and that's it. Thank you all so much for attending my presentation, and it looks like we have time for questions.